Hey dudes, it's Teresa from the Canned Peaches Project, and today we are making kolachi. Kolachi is a soft and tender bread that has a nut and raisin filling rolled up into it. You'll see a bunch of different versions of this from various Eastern European countries as well as throughout the United States. I've seen a Slovenian version called potica. I would say that the babka is definitely a cousin of kolachi, which that's gotten pretty popular in the States the past couple of years. And I've also seen something Austrian called a Reindling, and that was pretty wild. It's rolled up with cinnamon and raisins, and then it's baked in a big bundt pan, so it's kind of like an elongated version. But today we're making kolachi. Kolachi comes from the Ukraine, at least this version does. It comes from a woman of Ukrainian descent who lives in Youngstown, Ohio. Her name was Emilia Machingo. And Youngstown, Ohio is kind of the epicenter for American kolachi making. It's the home of Buttermaid Bakery, which has been making kolachi since 1903. I mention them because I also have ordered a kolachi roll from them, which we will be able to sample later. And I'm pretty excited to do that to sort of just like see what that bakery's roll is like compared to the one that we're going to make. I have made this recipe before. I made it with my friend Corinne, who is the granddaughter of Emilia Machingo, and her family makes kolachi every Christmas. Before the coronavirus, Corinne and I were able to get together and make a couple of her different grandmother's recipes. And it was so much fun. My friend Kylie was there, and we were like taking pictures and talking about being women together and baking together, and it was awesome. And I've really wanted to remake a bunch of those recipes since because one, I wanted to eat kolachi. Two, the time we made kolachi, I had the wrong kind of raisins, so I wanted raisin redemption. And then, I thought that this was a recipe that people really want to make around Christmas, and people are Googling the heck out of it on the Canned Peaches site, so I was like, people need information about kolachi, let's put it out there. So, the recipe essentially has 4 parts. 1, making the sponge. 2, making the dough. 3, making the filling. And 4, assembling the rolls. And then I guess 5 is baking. And then 6 is eating. And then 7 is telling your friends you made it. So there's 7 parts, but really the 4 parts that we need to focus on. So we'll get started with part 1, which is making the sponge. Okay, so step 1 for making kolachi is to make the sponge. The sponge is a small portion of dough that then you just later incorporate into the bigger piece of dough. This is a pretty common thing that you'll see in bread baking, and the idea is to give the whole dough a jump start and a kick start on rising, on flavor, and texture. Depending on the style of bread, it might be called a poulish, it could be called a biga, or they might just call it a pre-ferment. It just takes a couple seconds to throw together, and then it sits on your counter, and you come back to it. Alright, but why? Let's do this. 3 tablespoons evaporated milk. 3 tablespoons warm water. Give your water a feel. Make sure that it's warm to the touch. I actually like to use half water from my tea kettle and then half water from the tap just to make sure it's a good 90 degrees or so. It helps the yeast activate faster. Speaking of yeast, let's weigh the yeast. It's 4 grams of yeast. I always like to use a scale for that, especially when it's such a tiny amount. It's hard to really give a teaspoon measurement for that. So 4 grams. Alright, 4 grams of yeast. Then we're going to tare out again. We're going to do 50 grams of flour, which is about 1/3 of a cup of flour if you don't have a scale. But once again, it's a really nice thing to be able to use a scale for flour. It's a little much on the flour, but we're just gonna go ahead and scoop that out. If you want to be less of a wildcat, you can always mise all your stuff out separate and then put it in if you're worried you're gonna make a mistake. So I'd say just go for it. Alright, and then 1.5 teaspoons of sugar. And the sugar also helps make the yeast work a little faster. Grab a spoon and we're going to mix this all together. And what you're going to have is a small, little goopy piece of dough. There you go, that's it. Okay, and last part is to cover it with saran wrap so it doesn't dry out. And then keep it in a warmish place. It doesn't need to be super warm so that it can start rising. We're gonna check back on it in about 45 minutes. All right, on to making the dough. For the dough, you can absolutely do it in a large bowl by hand. But if you have a mixer, go ahead and put your hook attachment onto it and use your mixer, because I like to do anything in my mixer that I possibly can because I'm tired and I don't want to do it by hand. All right, so into your mixer, we're going to put 1 tablespoon and 1 teaspoon of sour cream. This is a pretty small batch of dough, so all these amounts are pretty small. 3 tablespoons of sugar. This is 1 egg. Whisk it up, and you're gonna put half of it into your mix, and then the other half you're gonna save for glazing the kolachi at the end. 197 grams of all-purpose flour. 3 tablespoons of soft butter, about 42 grams. It should be kind of squishy. It's nice to put it into your microwave in like 5-second bursts. That's a nice way to temper butter. Of course, you can always like pull it out of your refrigerator hours ahead of time. Spoop, spap, spoop. All right, and then put in half a teaspoon of salt. That's what that looks like. Okay. Then, here's what this puppy looks like. You're gonna put your entire sponge in. And so this is about 45 minutes later. It's doubled in volume, and you can see it's poofy, it's liquidy, it's alive, ready to party with the rest of the dough. Just use your spatula to scrape it on in. It's worth it to get like every last bit into there. Okay, good. Now we turn on the mixer. Start off slow. And once you start to see everything getting hydrated and it's starting to look like a single unit of dough, then you're going to turn it up. Is ready, and the way that you can tell is it's clearing the sides of the bowl. It's not like this sticky mess anymore, and it's really become this like singular unit. It's very soft and pretty pliable. You won't get a window pane because there's too much fat in it. Alright, so we're going to proof it. Get a bowl that I can easily double in size. Spray the bowl. You can also use vegetable oil, but it'll stick if you don't spray it with something. Go ahead and plop your dough into the bowl. And then cover it either with saran wrap, or actually what I like to do is to cover it with these produce bags. That way you're not using endless saran wrap. I actually meant to do that for the sponge too, but I briefly forgot to care about the environment. So we're back to caring. Here we go. It's covered, it's sprayed, it's going to sit in a warm spot for about an hour, and it should double in size. It's time to make the filling! Alright, so step 1 is we're going to grind 6 ounces of walnuts and then a 1/4 cup of Thompson raisins. In the food processor, we're going to grind them until they're fine, but we don't want to grind them until it's like a nut raisin butter, which actually would be kind of hard to do. You can feel free to play around with the nuts. You can do almonds, you could do, I wouldn't do peanuts, you could do cashews, you could do a mix of nuts. We're sticking pretty close to Amelia's recipe, so we're gonna use walnuts. All right, and then just do a little Blitzen trapper. Pretty good to me. Okay, so such as like. It's sort of like this sand, but it's little chunks. All right, empty it into a bowl, and then we're gonna head over to the stove. Okay, filling part 2. So get out your 9-inch skillet. That'll work well for this batch size. You're gonna do this all over medium-low. All right, so I have here 1/4 cup of milk. And then this is 2 tablespoons of sugar. Donk it on in there, and you're just going to put it medium-low. And we are just going to stir this until the sugar is dissolved. Alright, and then when your sugar looks like it's dissolved, go ahead and add your raisin and nut mixture to it. And you're really just going to be cooking this until it kind of becomes a singularity and like a filling. I like to keep extra milk on hand in case it's not a spreadable consistency. It kind of just depends on your nut. This is milk. I don't know why I'm showing that to you, but yeah, keep it around. Something else you might want to do too is add cinnamon or nutmeg or clove to this. Just sort of depends on your flavor. Amelia's original recipe doesn't call for any, and the nuts and the raisins have a lot of flavor on their own. What I'm going to be adding is 5-spice powder because I've just been loving it so much lately, and I think it's going to be super tasty. So I'm going to go ahead and add a couple shakes of that in here right now. Alright, so you can see it's kind of becoming this mass. Oh heck, let's put a little salt in there too. Just a little pinch. Oh, that's smelling good. Oh, I like it. Alright, we're getting into the main event now, where we shape the kolache rolls. Go ahead and pop your oven on to 350 degrees to get it preheated. Here is our old friend, the dough! As you can see, it's risen quite a bit. It's like very soft and tender when you poke it. It's looking good. So I want to divide this into 2 even globs so that I can have 2 even rolls. And I'm not sure how much this dough weighs, so what I'm going to do real quick is see how much it weighs. And divide it in half. 471 grams. Cool. So that's about 235 grams a piece. So this is a fun game called How Even Can I Do That? Okay, 244. Not bad. 206. Alright, so we'll donate a little bit to this one. Ugh, 240. Okay. Alright, there we go. Now they're even. Okay, so to make our lives a little easier when we roll these out, we want them to be as square as possible. So go ahead and give them a little pre-shape to make it square so that when you're rolling out, they're nice and easy to do. Oh, this is such a nice dough to touch. It's just like diving into a bag of pillows. Alright, cool. Now that we've given them a pre-shape, put your produce bag, your all-purpose produce bag, both over them. And they just need to sit there and chill out for about 5 to 7 minutes so that they're really relaxed and we can roll them nice and thin. Come on, fly now. We're gonna sprinkle some flour. Just a light sprinkle to help it not stick. And get one of these. Just do a little flour on top. So let's start rolling it out. Our goal is for it to be 1/4 inch thick, which is pretty thin. And as square as you can keep it, it's gonna look a little nicer. When we did it before, they were pretty circular, and it was fine. It works out. It looking perfect doesn't make it necessarily taste better. But you know what? Like, you want things to be cute, don't you? You do. Alright, this is looking pretty good. Looking pretty. About the right thickness. It's not perfectly square. If you really want it to be perfectly square, what you could do is you could cut off the sides. But I actually don't want to do that because I want maximum roll. Alright, so go ahead and grab your filling that you've chilled. can be, as it's chilled, it's gotten a little bit thicker, so you might want to drizzle in a little bit more of that milk that you had reserved. That's what I did. So I'm eyeballing about half of my filling. This is gonna get... Oh yeah, that's good. So this is like the good spreadable consistency I've been talking about. Once you get it here, you're ready to roll. Okay, so spread it evenly, or as evenly as you can do. You've been working hard. You've been making kolache all day. Maybe it's not super thin, but it's gonna be good. Leave a little border on the sides, so it doesn't need to come all the way up to the edge. All right, now let's roll it. Might have to do kind of these quick little motions like I'm doing to get it up. Yeah, there we go. Yes, yes, yes. All right. Here's your little kolache roll. I'm gonna go ahead and tuck under. All right, there you go, sailor. There's your kolache roll. So while you wait and do the other one, you're gonna let this proof on a pan. Whenever I can, I like to use silpats. Silpats work well here, and this can just hang out here while you roll the other one. You want to give them at least 10 minutes on the pan. All right, let's get these pups ready for the oven. So remember that egg from the beginning? That half an egg you saved? Here it is. I put a splash of milk in there too. You can use cream, you can use water, just kind of something to stretch it out. And that helps this have a beautiful golden brown finish. So go ahead and give them a glaze. And then you're just going to give them a couple of scores. Let's do 3. 1, 2, and 3. And that's it. They're ready to get baked. Let's bake them! Alright, so it took about 25 minutes. And if you want to get a cute little shot of this, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. It got nice and golden brown. I really like my scoring. And neither me nor my cameraman can wait to eat this because it's been a pretty long day making these. It's nighttime. We're ready to plow in. So we're going to go ahead and cut on in. Yeah, it's still ripping hot. These are definitely best enjoyed warm. Oh, yeah, look at that. Look at those swirls! All right. Try a little out of it. Oh, it's so good. Well, it definitely could cool down a little bit. Like, I sort of have a huff mouth, so that's why I'm able to eat it right now. But, oh, it's exquisite. Yup. Hooray for grandmothers. Hey guys, as promised, I have the kolache from Buttermaid Bakery. It arrived just yesterday, and this is a couple of days before Christmas, so I am incredibly impressed with them and the Postal Service for getting it to us so quickly. That bakery is in Youngstown, Ohio, so it came all the way across the country. And they've been making kolache since 1903, and I've been excited to try sort of like the standard for kolache in America. And I've also been pretty excited to try it against this one that we made the other day from Amelia's recipe, which we have just been snacking the heck out of here at my house. It's so good. At first when I had it out of the oven, I was like, this is definitely best like fresh, hot out of the oven. But actually, like, a day or two later, keep it wrapped in plastic, it's so good. Like, it just kind of, like, gets more and more flavorful. Anyways, it's delicious. But yeah, we just had dinner, and we're just, like, hanging out, chilling out. So this is dessert. This is what we're doing. All right. All right, so here's FAQs in case you're like, how do I eat it? Oh, it's about, like, storing and serving it. They trust we know how to eat it. Oh, and it's in a cute box. Oh, cute. Walnut. Oh, cool. I made a walnut one, and this is also walnut. All right. Let's see what it looks like. Da, 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 da.
Alright, definitely got smushed, which that's part of the FAQs of why is my kolache flat? It's that it's unique. Our kolache are generally very flat. Okay. I feel like mine was pretty round, but that's what they're saying. They're owning it. They're like, we have flat kolache. Right. And it comes in this nice cryovac bag, so that's probably how they're able to ship it across the country. Shipping pastries across the country is an undertaking. That's part of why I really wanted to try this too, is I'm like, how do they feel so confident shipping it across the country? Alright, here's what it looks like. Here's the tool. So this is homemade, and then this is the one that you get from the epicenter of Kolachi town. Cool, it has the scoring as well. Kolachi! So like way more nuts than ours had. It's way more dense. Okay, cut off a strip. This is for the cameraman. Cameraman. This is for me. Alright. Oh, good. Very dense, right? Like, I guess you can just tell by looking at it. You're like, this is all about nuts. This is about nuts and bread. Yeah. Cool. Pretty good. Definitely the same kind of flavor. You can tell this comes from exactly the same baking tradition. Eastern European. Transplanted in Ohio. Make it on the holidays. But like, to me, there's no comparison. I love Emilia's, which I already knew that. Like, I already knew that I was gonna love it, but it's super cool to try what a bakery that's been making it for over 100 years is doing with it. Alright, that's it for Kolachi. Thanks so much for coming on the journey of Kolachi with me. It's really fun for me to be able to make it again and share it with you guys and make a whole video about it, as well as see what the heritage of this dessert is. So, thanks so much. Check out Canned Peaches, check out the recipe, and if you make it, send me your photos. I'd love to see how it turns out and what you think of it. Okay, bye. Take care of yourselves. All the way from Ohio, we have Kolachi! This one split open on the bottom just like mine did, too. Brother!